Alright, so Sunlust map 14, which is called Troglodytes. This map is really cool for a couple reasons, I think. One are the different paths you can take right at the start. So you can just immediately go get plasma, for example, instead of going this way, and then deal with the rocket launcher fight much easier than it would be normally would be, because you could just blow through all the chain gunners and get invuln. Or you can sort of do this, which is a much, I guess, I don't know why I routed it this way. This is just the way I ended up playing the map, to be honest. It sort of lets me get BFG, I guess, and then deal with the Vial and the Revs. And it also kind of, I found it really fun how you eventually lower the floor in that area where you get SSG here, and you sort of platform over it, and the floor becomes like one big pain sector. And so, playing it this way, I felt like it put that pain sector a little bit more into play than it would have if I played the map another way. Because you can no longer reach that Vial and 2 Revs if you were to go, jump down into the pain sector, because the floor lowers as well. So it's pretty interesting, as you'll see later on, how there's another way, to get over into that area after you lower the floor, which I thought was pretty cool as far as, a map transformation sort of gimmick here. And it also does the thing where, you sort of it reuses platforms sort of deal to sort of go over an area you've already been to. In this case, the pillars that you see in that area at the start lower a bit. So then all of a sudden, you're progressing through that area in a different way than you would have previously, which coincidentally also makes all the monsters that you fight in that area much more deadly, because your movement is so restricted when you're fighting them. Unless, I guess I didn't really try killing them from standing within the pain sector, but that wouldn't be as much fun, to be honest. But this fight is also pretty cool. It is kind of front-loaded. Once you kill one Cyber Demon, the other one just kind of infights. So it's a little bit, waiting around, but it's pretty fun overall, I would say. And the YS key area is also, for me anyway, I really like maps that give you an area which is nothing. It's really just an area you can sort of explore. There's not really much gameplay there, but it sort of lets you, just sort of enjoy the map, I guess, a little bit more, rather than, having combat in every single area. And it's something that's I always try to remember to do in maps I make, but sometimes I forget. And just feel like I need to have combat everywhere, where it's, seeing maps like these, it's fun to remember that, you can just sort of make areas in your map which do nothing but sort of add to the atmosphere of the map in meaningful ways. And in that way, it's to get a secret key where there's just sort of nothing there. Which is also kind of interesting as well, because, if a player ever sees a key like that, generally they're going to think that there's going to be an ambush of some kind and lying in wait. So it's interesting seeing maps where, you pick up a key but nothing happens, so you're kind of like wondering, okay, where the hell is the ambush going to be, And if it never comes, it sort of adds, it sort of keeps the player guessing, like, what is really going on here and stuff like that. So I really like that area for that particular reason. This fight's also pretty interesting as well. I appreciate the fact that the timer for the switch to appear is very short, so I'm sure that the speedrunners all just sort of hit the switches real quick and just blow everything up in this particular area. I should probably watch a demo to see how it's actually done, because this map is quite interesting, I feel, from a routing perspective at least, because it's not immediately apparent what you're supposed to do for the quickest time in this map. So here's what I was talking about right here with the pillars lowering and making this area much more deadly, for these monsters, so they can actually maybe get a couple more licks in than they normally would, because you just can't move as much. This Mancubus, although failed miserably in his job, I never actually tried to kill him there. This is kind of a cheeky ambush. I really like how the monsters, they, if you pacifist the map, it doesn't matter. I think the monsters will still teleport in. That's something I do quite a bit, even though people say, it's not good to have scrollers for your monster closets when the monster, instead of having, the monster just wake up. I think it's a really cool idea in a lot of different aspects to just sort of scroll your monsters over lines, especially Cyber Demons. It's really fun to sort of not reveal that you have cyber demons in your map using that kind of setup. So this fight's also interesting as well. It's incredibly deadly if you approach it from a different way. Like if you just come here immediately without knowing what you're doing, because you'll just get melted by all those chain gunners. So it's pretty cool that if you, how much of a reward it actually is if you explore this map. And actually find all the secrets. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome map overall. Definitely one of my favorites in Sunlust. Probably from Ribik's following behind, maybe Map 23 is also really cool. And of course, you know, if you ask him, he'll tell you that Map 22 is his favorite map in the WoD and also the best one that he made. So, I mean, it's hard to compete with that one, especially, you know, with the pineapple sector or whatever it is, or the palm tree sector. I can't remember. But yeah, it's a pretty awesome map, especially from a the atmosphere. So this map overall is one of the few where I feel like if I was Doom Guy, if I was able to reach my hand out, I would feel sort of moisture on the walls and stuff like that. You know, it really sort of makes you feel the humidity as you're running through the map almost. And it's very rare when maps make me feel something like that. So I appreciate this map also for that reason. But yeah, sweet map overall. That's all I got.